Have you ever opened your phone, scrolled through your gallery, and suddenly paused on a screenshot of an old conversation? Maybe it was something sweet, maybe something painful, maybe just a random message that for some reason you couldn't bring yourself to delete. And if you're being honest, you didn't just keep it, you've gone back and read it, more than once. Now, here is the interesting part. Most people think saving screenshots like that is just a habit, something small, harmless, maybe even pointless. But psychologically, it's almost never random. Because when someone keeps screenshots of conversations, they're not just saving words, they're saving meaning, memory, proof, emotion. And once you start noticing that, a deeper question appears. What exactly are you trying to hold on to? Let me show you something. Imagine this. It's late at night. You're lying in bed, scrolling aimlessly. Your brain is tired, but it doesn't want to switch off. And then you find it, that one screenshot, a message someone sent you weeks, months, maybe even years ago. You open it, and suddenly you're not in your room anymore. You're back in that moment. You remember how you felt when you first read it, the tone, the context, the person. That's not an accident. That's your brain doing something very specific. Psychologists call this emotional anchoring. Your brain attaches strong feelings to certain moments, and when those moments are captured, like in a screenshot, they become triggers, tiny time machines. So when you keep screenshots, you're actually creating emotional bookmarks. And here's the thing. People who do this a lot, they tend to feel things deeply. Not weakly, not dramatically, deeply. Because most people read a message and move on. But you pause, you analyze, you feel the weight behind the words. You don't just see what was said, you try to understand what was meant. And that changes everything. Now, think about the types of screenshots people usually keep. It's rarely something neutral like, okay, or see you later. It's the messages that hit. A compliment that felt surprisingly genuine. An argument that left you confused or hurt. A message that made you question everything. Why those? Because your brain hates unfinished stories. There's a psychological concept called cognitive closure. It's basically your brain's desire to complete the loop. When something feels unresolved, your mind keeps going back to it, trying to make sense of it. So when a conversation leaves you with questions or emotions that don't fully settle, you capture it, you save it. Not because you need the words, but because you're still searching for the meaning behind them. And every time you revisit that screenshot, your brain tries again. What did they really mean? Did I misunderstand? Was that genuine or not? It's like re-watching the same scene, hoping this time you'll notice something new. But it goes even deeper than that. For some people, screenshots become a form of emotional evidence. Let's say someone once said something kind to you, something that made you feel seen, important, valued. In that moment, it felt real. But later, doubt creeps in. Did they really mean that? Was I just overthinking it? So, you keep the screenshot, not just as a memory, but as a proof. Proof that it happened. Proof that it was real. Proof that at least once someone saw you in a certain way. And that's incredibly human. Because our brains are not always consistent. Feelings fade, memories blur. But a screenshot, it stays the same. It doesn't change. It doesn't reinterpret. It doesn't forget. And for someone who struggles with uncertainty, that stability is comforting. It's like holding on to a fixed point in a constantly shifting emotional world. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Not all screenshots are positive. Some people keep messages that hurt them, conversations that ended badly, words they wish they could forget, but don't. Why would anyone keep that? At first glance, it doesn't make sense. Why save pain? But psychologically,
It often comes from a need to process. When something hurts you deeply, your brain doesn't just let it go. It tries to understand it, dissect it, learn from it, and sometimes it replays it. Keeping a screenshot is like saying, "I'm not done with this yet." It's a way of holding the moment still so you can examine it from every angle. What did I miss? What could I have said differently? Why did this affect me so much? It's not about reliving the pain for no reason. It's about trying to make sense of it. And in a strange way, it's also about control. Because when something happens in real time, it's messy, fast, emotional. But a screenshot, it freezes that chaos. Now you can look at it calmly, slowly, on your own terms. You can zoom in, reread, analyze. You take something overwhelming and make it manageable. That's a powerful psychological coping mechanism. But like anything powerful, it has a flip side. Because sometimes, instead of helping you move forward, it keeps you stuck. Think about it. Every time you go back to that screenshot, you're reopening that emotional loop. You're stepping back into the same moment. And if you're not careful, your brain starts living there. Instead of processing and letting go, it starts replaying and holding on. This is where something called rumination comes in. It's when your mind keeps circling the same thoughts without reaching a conclusion. And screenshots can become fuel for that. You read the message again, you analyze it again, you feel it again, but nothing changes. And slowly, without realizing it, you become emotionally tied to a moment that's already over. That's why some people's galleries feel like emotional archives. Not just memories, but unresolved stories. Now, I want you to pause for a second. Think about the screenshots you've kept. Not all of them, just one. Why did you save that one? Was it because it made you feel something you didn't want to forget? Or because it left you with something you couldn't understand? Or maybe because it was the closest thing you had to clarity in a confusing situation? Whatever your answer is, it says something about you. It shows what matters to you. It shows what your brain holds on to. And more importantly, it shows what you're still trying to process. Because at the end of the day, keeping screenshots isn't really about technology. It's about memory. It's about emotion. It's about the human need to make sense of our experiences, especially the ones that don't come with easy explanations. And if you're someone who does this often, there's something you should know. It doesn't mean you're stuck in the past. It doesn't mean you're overthinking everything. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It often means you're attentive. You notice things others miss. You feel things others brush off. You care about meaning, not just surface-level interactions. That's not a weakness. But it does come with a responsibility. Because at some point, you have to ask yourself, am I keeping this to understand it or to hold on to it? Am I revisiting this to grow or to stay connected to a feeling I can't let go of? There's a difference. And recognizing that difference is where real self-awareness begins. Because the goal isn't to delete every screenshot and pretend nothing mattered. The goal is to understand why it mattered and decide whether it still needs a place in your present. Some moments deserve to be remembered. Others deserve to be released. And knowing which is which, that's where growth happens. So the next time you find yourself opening an old screenshot late at night, don't just read it. Ask yourself a simple question. What am I still looking for here? And whatever answer comes up, pay attention to it. Because it might not just explain the screenshot, it might explain you. And if this made you think even a little bit differently about your own habits, then maybe it's worth exploring more of these hidden patterns together.